Well, my my internet just shut off. Sorry about that. But anyway, back to what I was trying to talk about, but now I lost my train of thought because that took a minute. But I just want to say, like, figure out what makes your passion light up. Like, what makes you excited? Like, and I feel like it's important to talk about the difference between, chasing something because it makes you feel adrenaline and makes you feel like the passion in things, because that can get confusing with like finding inner peace, happiness. And sometimes we chase those areas of what we think make us happy on deep levels, but that's the hard part, because it can get really tricky when it like when you go really deep into happiness and what like we we chase things, and like if it makes us feel something, like, and we have a hard time feeling our emotions, like that can cause unhealthy, you know, like symptoms of, we think we are finding happiness, and then like it can get confusing, like, why is this not going the way I thought? Like, I should be happier than this. And I feel like that is a really hard thing, because we don't always see, why we aren't finding as much happiness in something. Like, it gets old, like, too quickly. And if something feels like it's getting old, it's not fun anymore, and it makes us, turn down on that thought. And I feel like when we are feeling like that, it's because there's deeper reasons of why we're feeling down. Like, we gotta dig deep and realize, like, what are little things that are keeping me from being happy? Like, it goes into deep emotions, because if we're not dealing with our traumas, like things that have happened to us in the past, and those things constantly, cloud our minds and we get monkey mind from it, like, those things are going to keep us from seeing true happiness. And we can get confused because we find happiness in little things, which can be really good, to have hobbies and stuff. But to use those hobbies to escape reality is where it gets kind of dangerous, because, if we're not, we're just trying to escape, and it gives us joy. But is that temporary joy? Like, does that happen all the time, or just while you're doing that thing? And true inner peace, happiness, is only found in the moments of the day, and like finding, balancing our emotions to where they're not like, we're not getting depressed one moment and then we're happy one moment and then we're sad one moment. Like, that's where it gets hard, because it's like we just want to find whatever happiness we can. And I do think that those are the short bursts of happiness are to remind you that you can have that every single day. All day. And when we get those little reminders of, a split second while we're doing our hobbies or watching our, show, or whatever we're doing, reading a book, like, we gotta remember that we have the power to have that all day, every day. And I think that when we're, working on whatever it is that tears you up, like, we all have those things in our lives that cause us pain. And when we feel that pain, we have to, work through those things, because it's only going to block you from experiencing true happiness. Like, this life is about being happy and finding love and being love. Like, we definitely have to get to a place where that is our everyday intention, to be love, to be happy, and to be at peace with everything, because everything is out of our control. Like, we don't have very much control like we think we do. We try to control things that, only cause us stress and worry, and we all get those things, that kind of put us down in the moment. Like, we feel like, well, I wish I could have handled that better, or, like, it could be seriously anything. We all get those every moment to moment feelings. So, but I just wanted to, express how I felt about happiness, and like, because I just feel like it's one of those things that are not very explored on deep levels, because when we get a laugh or we get a happiness here or there, it's very, it feels good to have those. But I feel like on deep levels, like, we could have that so much more than we do. And we deserve that. Like, we deserve to have happiness and love in our life. And it really is to, find the happiness in the moments of every day. Because that's where happiness lies, is in every single moment with our perception. Like, how do we want to feel about this situation? And if it's a crappy situation, how can you make it better? Like, what fun can you turn a crappy situation into? Like, there's a lot of things that, stupid stuff happens to us randomly all the time. Like, it's how we perceive that moment defines our happiness. Because one little moment that happens like that can ruin our entire day. Like, literally. Like, so, it just goes back to being able to really see how easy it is to get upset about something, and to realize, like, do I want this to bring me down? Like, it's choices. We have choices to make every single day at every situation that we go through. It's our choice how we respond to it. And if you're get to the point where you're just tired of being angry, or tired of being whatever, like, it's time to take your power back. Time to really find what makes you happy, and how are you going to make that your whole day. So, hi Vimani. Anyway, but I just think it's really important, like, to seize every moment, and to, live every day to the fullest, like, and really watch how we respond to situations, because I think that's super important. Because if we aren't doing those things, we can let literally the smallest thing just destroy our entire day. And I don't think that you can find happiness in that. Like, if you get triggered too easily, like, those are things that need more attention. Like, what can we learn from that person that triggers us, so we can find more happiness in those moments? Because happiness is a state of mind. Like, it's a state of where we are and how we want to, react to every situation. So, it's getting dark out, but anyway, I'm gonna close it there. I just really wanted to express, how I feel about finding happiness in the moment, because I feel like when we can find happiness in the things that most people would be like, how are you responding like that? Because you're not letting little things kill you, like, break you down and trigger you in the most hardest ways. Because, we are all guilty of this, like, every single one of us. Like, it's whether we choose to make those situations better, because if we aren't working on those little areas that cause us, man, I used to be bad in the car when I would get road rage. I used to get the worst road rage. But you know what I realized? I'd have a more pleasant drive to work if I wouldn't get pissed at the car in front of me. Because I used to get really mad at the people in front of me because they go too slow. But I realized that maybe there's a reason I need to go slower that day, because what if I was going on time and I went through a stoplight and I got hit by a car because I was 10 seconds ahead of time? So I think that is a lesson in itself, is, you know, there's reasons that we get put behind things that we can't see. So don't get mad at the car in front of you because it could save your life. But anyway, so what's the difference between happiness and pleasure? Oh, I kind of already talked about that tiny bit. But I feel like when it comes to relationships, like on a deep level, I'm going to go deeper into it this time because I didn't go super deep into it. But I feel like happiness and pleasure are very different in ways of, you know, when we find pleasure can be one of those things that like attract us to it, you know, and unhealthy ways. Like, I don't think that pleasure is necessarily a bad thing. Like, I think that happiness can coexist with pleasure, but it needs to be in a healthy setting. Because if it's not in a healthy setting, like, we're chasing after something that triggers our serotonin and, you know, gives us a rush, you know, that can be in a type of pleasure area. Like, you know, we could definitely get sidetracked with what the present moment is by getting these feelings, because if we can't control the difference between them two, like separate them, because happiness is, you know, a deep state of consciousness of how your day is on like a super high level. Like, every moment of your day is, you're allowing yourself to feel your emotions in good ways, you know, like in healthy ways. Like, if you're overreacting to situations, like that alone isn't healthy. And that can also be a type of trigger to a pleasure, because sometimes getting angry at something and just yelling, like some people, like that releases, you know, built up anger, you know, and people can find, like, people who like to fight, that is like a bad type of pleasure, because they like to do something that causes other people pain. And so I feel like it is one of those situations that they need to be seen as two separate, because like if you're in like an intimate relationship, like if it is, oh, what is that? Yeah, pleasure can be definitely fleeting. Like, it comes and goes really quickly. We don't find the happiness in long states of periods when we're just getting a guilty pleasure for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, and that can be why things are addicting, because they give you a guilty pleasure. You know, like they give you a pleasure that you know, can experience for a little bit of time. Like, I think that's also another reason why people do drugs, is because it gives them a pleasure in the moment, you know, because they are escaping reality. And when we're escaping reality, we are not in the moment. We are not seeing what our true potential is because it's being clouded by pleasures that are not healthy for us. And Oh, that's just a hard thing, because when we allow ourselves to indulge in things that aren't healthy for us, but we find pleasure in those moments, like, those can be moments that, for drug addicts, those could be the moments that kill them from a drug overdose, because it's just too good of a feeling, you know, and they have to have more. Or if it's in a relationship, like being intimate, like intimate with somebody, even though you're not into the relationship as much, that can also be a guilty pleasure in that area, because you are only giving one half of your body to somebody instead of giving them your whole self, because, happiness makes that area, when you can find the happiness for yourself, you can find it in a relationship. So those areas, they can coexist healthily. But if they don't, if it's only one-sided, like, that is where things are not, they're not going to be the right fit. It's not going to work, because, we get in these little moments of time where those little areas that aren't healthy for us, where it gets really just as like overwhelming, because guilty pleasures, they're eating chocolate too much can be a guilty pleasure. Like, we find happy, oh, that is such a good one, like, because food, I love food, so that can also be unhealthy. What is it? Oh, yes, happiness is hearing a baby's laughter. I second that, because when my little girl laughs, it is just the best. Like, it will kill you inside, because it's just the best thing in the whole world. I think that is, like, probably the number one thing of happiness. I agree with you there. But yeah, so anyway, I got sidetracked because I read. But, I say find those pleasures in healthy ways, so that when you get them, you can see it for what it really is. Because happiness really is in the moment of things. Like, if we can see things for the way they really are, with having our perception in the right view. Because I think we can view things, with our ego, and we can view things with our soul. And when we see things on deep levels, that's where we're going to find the happiness. Like, it is just amazing to me on when you allow your heart to feel all your emotions and all of everyday things. Like, me, I love to see the clouds. Like, clouds during the day, like, that alone can just make me happy for as long as I stare at it, and but I'm feeling it, like, with my heart. And that is where I find the difference between, something that, makes you happy for a few minutes, and something that you can just see the beauty in. Because if you can see the beauty in stuff, like, that is where real happiness lies. Oh, it's getting so dark in here. Anyway, sorry. Oh no, that's so bright. Okay. Anyway. But I just feel like it's super important to, see those moments for what they really are, because if we can't, see through the lenses of, our pleasures and things that excite us, and the deeper moments in that, because if you can do those and feel it with your heart, I say that's real happiness. It's when we feel things without using our heart emotion. Because there's moments where you can literally put your hands over your heart and feel your heart. Like, the energy that your heart pours out, like, that is something you can feel physically if you allow yourself to feel it. And so, I feel like that is where I find my happiness in the days, is when I allow myself to feel it, you know, because I feel like we put blockers up, especially empaths. Like, it is amazing to me. I have a lot of empath friends, but we all are alike in this area, is we feel so much of other people's stuff that it's hard to tell what's ours and what's theirs. And if we can't feel the difference between ours and theirs, like, you can be around a whole group of people and say every single one of them are happy. It's gonna make you happy. And, you know, you gotta be able to separate your happiness from their happiness. And that is really hard, because when you're around a bunch of people and then say one person is happy and the rest of them are angry, you're more likely going to feel all those angry people than that one happy person, because anger is so powerful. Like, it can clog you. I don't like being around that many people that are angry. But I think you got to learn to shield yourself so that way it's not, you know, overwhelming, because it can be very overwhelming, especially if you're like around thousands of people. Like, if you go to like a festival or something like that, like, you know, their chances are you're going to get a lot of mixed emotions, and trying to find your happiness in that it is hard. Like, that, I would say, work on learning to shield yourself. And I did a video on energy, so I talked about how to shield yourself in those. So, but anyway, like, so being able to tell your emotions is so important to finding your own happiness, because it is just unbelievable the power that you find in your own heart when you allow yourself to feel on levels that you never thought you could. And a year ago, I thought I couldn't do that. Like, and it's all on the perception of how we see things. Because if we're going to be negative, we're not going to find real happiness, real peace. Like, we got to deal with all those triggers, and the deep triggers. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I get a little annoyed sometimes. So, you know, it's one of those things that we fight on a daily basis. And his name is Fred. He's my ego. He's not, you know, I fight him all the time. But I think that we all have that. You know, we all have a little ego inside of us that likes to steal our happiness, because he doesn't want us to be happy. Mine's a he, I don't know why. But anyway, I think that we just need to get in a place where we can allow ourselves to not be clouded by ego and just the little things in life that, you know, we feel like steals our happiness, but really it's not stealing our happiness, because we're letting it be taken. Because it's a choice. It's a choice to be happy. If you want to be happy, you have to choose. It is a everyday, every hour, minute decision. Like, of course there's going to be times where we aren't feeling happy. It's because we're meant to feel every emotion. So when we're not happy, it's for a reason. Like, we feel so much things. Like, we need that. We need that to be alive, because, you know, that's why we're here. We're here to master every emotion we have. So that way we can control how our happiness is given and taken, you know, like, if we want to be easily triggered, we are not going to find those little moments of joy that are taken from people, because they allow it to be taken. And I just think that's a really hard concept, because it's like, how am I allowing my happiness to be taken? Like, I used to feel that way. Like, how can, you know, why can't I just be happy? Like, don't I deserve to be happy? And it took me a long time to realize that I was looking outward for happiness. And I feel like when we look outward for happiness, for other people to make us happy, like, we're not going to find real happiness. Like, getting old helps. Yeah, it does when you get older. I mean, I've grown up a lot the last couple years mentally. But I think there's a lot of wisdom that comes with age. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Like, when you can find, inner peace and inner love, like when you can love yourself on deep levels, like age shouldn't be a thing. Like, realistically, time isn't a thing, so why is age a thing? You know, like, our souls grow and our bodies grow with it, like, the time we have on this earth is short. And if we, get into the moment of like thinking that we are getting too, like, our skin changes and, like, that's a really hard thing, like, to go through. And I feel like the older we get stretch marks, we get all these things that are imperfections. But it's like, what are we going to do with those imperfections? Like, that sets us aside from other people. Like, if we can learn to love those imperfections about ourselves, we can do anything. Because when we love ourselves for who we are and what we look like, I think the most beautiful thing is realizing our soul chose this body, chose every aspect of every molecule in our body. Like, our soul chose to look like this and to age like this. And if we don't like that about ourselves, then, like, our soul, our soul feels that about us and just feels sad for us, because I feel like on a deep level we are our soul, but we also, I feel like to connect with that, it's like a deep level. Like, you have to find love in your heart, allow your heart to open before you can be one with your soul. Like, that's the real trick behind that, is like, to find love for yourself, your soul and you will unite and be one. And when you can be one, you can do anything. Like, and that's all our soul wants for us to do, is learn to be one with ourselves. Because that's why we're here. Like, we are here to experience every emotion, go through every thing that our soul decides to put us through this life. Like, nothing happens by accident. And I feel like the more you pay attention, the more you realize, like, it's like you kind of laugh at this stuff. Like, to me, like, when something happens to me, I'm like, oh my god, like, my soul set this up for this to happen, and I'm like, how coincidental could this possibly be? And then it's like you realize there is no coincidences. So, I don't know, it's just funny to me, but I think I'm getting off track, but I just feel like we just have to be easy on ourselves and learn to laugh at the things that aren't really that serious. Like, if it's not a serious situation, like, don't allow it to control your emotions. Like, if you get angry really easily, like, stand back, count to 10 before you respond. Like, if it's something that makes you, like, lit, like, mad, like, count to 10 and see after 10 what is really making me upset. Like, I find so many reasons why I get upset when I, like, hold my breath and take a second and realize, like, what's the real problem here? Why am I getting so mad at something that if I hadn't had pent up energy about something, I would never be mad about this? Like, if it's one person that triggers you, and, like, say that same thing could have been said by somebody else, but you wouldn't get pissed, and you wouldn't get pissed, but you'd never tell that person, because that's not fun. But anyway, I just feel like if you can realize, like, those moments when we don't allow ourselves to be present in the moment and realize, hey, this thing pisses me off because I was mad about something they did earlier today, or, it could be anything, but taking those seconds to realize, like, what makes you upset, the next time that situation happens, I guarantee you're going to have more patience. And, it's funny is whenever you ask for more patience, what is the best way to help you learn patience than to test your patience? And I think that is just, if you can find the funny in that, I promise it will add some happiness to your life, because I guarantee you, like, you're gonna see things on a whole different level when you realize that these things that piss us off, like, once you find why it makes you mad, then the next time it happens, you're like, oh my god, this is like a spirit joke, because spirit decided to give this to me and make my life like this. Or, I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me, but I just think that there's deep reasons for everything that we do. Like, our soul chose this path. And the lessons that we, need to learn about finding our happiness are in our triggers. Because if we can allow triggers to get us down, it's going to steal what we think is stealing our happiness. But really, it's us stealing our happiness, because we are putting roadblocks in the way of free-flowing energy. And when we block our flowing energy, it's going to cause imbalance in our life. And we don't want to live that way. Like, we want to live it to the fullest. Like, live like every day is a special occasion. Like, I love that saying. Like, when people are like, turn it around, because I feel like people always say, oh, save that for a special occasion. Like, live like every day is a special occasion, because what if you died tomorrow? Would you be happy with your life? Like, would you look back and say, oh, I watched too much TV? That was me. I used to binge watch TV like nobody's business. And I don't really watch TV anymore. Like, me and my husband will watch a TV show. We usually watch Gordon Ramsay. But, I mean, other than that, I don't really like to watch TV anymore. Like, it took a long time to realize, how much life I've lost watching TV. And I don't think there's anything wrong with watching TV as long as it's done in healthy dosages. Like, if you're spending a whole day watching TV and you barely even get off the couch, like, there is not any happiness in that, because your focus is on the TV and you are not living in the moment. You are escaping reality in whatever you're watching. And I know that can be kind of hard to hear sometimes, because we don't think that that's really happening, because this is all done subconsciously. Like, when we're watching TV, we're literally escaping reality. And it's like reading a book too. Reading a book, like, as much as we can get out of books and little messages, because don't get me wrong, watching TV, those hours I spent watching TV and reading books and, having my head in something else, I got messages from them. Like, messages that helped me heal. But I can tell you, I didn't start healing as much until I put that stuff away. It was like I built up a little bit of healing, and then I was able to get to a place where I didn't, it's hard, because it's like, we don't, when we're first starting this path, we don't realize that that is stunting our growth. Yes, it does. I think it, when we watch too much TV, I think it, messes with the way we perceive the world. And it can make people very, I hate to say it this way, but it's true. It's like materialistic. Like, watching TV is a very materialistic world. And I feel like it's, I feel like, I don't want to go too deep about this, but I just think that there are plays at work, that's all I'm going to say, that try to keep us at a certain level of consciousness. And when they get us addicted to watching TV, like, it messes with our brains. Like, our brain turns to mush. Like, the gray matter in our brain builds the more TV you watch. And it's a very hard process to undo it. Like, if you're somebody who forgets a lot, it is so hard, because it took me a long time. Like, I still have really bad memory problems because of watching too much TV. You know, I think that it messes with our memory. Like, and I think that's a really hard thing to say. Like, well, you know, if you've had not a very good memory your whole life, like, how do you know that's the cause? But I can tell you what, I've spent a good majority of my life watching TV. And, yeah. Yeah. But it's craziness. I don't want to get too deep into that, because that's like a whole mind control situation. But it takes away our thought process to find our own happiness, and to realize that we are capable of our own happiness. And I think that is a big one. So I would try not to watch too much TV if you can. But even books, though, books, as good as books are for our minds to think, like, on a logical level, like, of whatever story we're reading, or if it's a spiritual book or whatever, like, I do believe that we can find messages in everything that we do, if we're looking hard enough, you know. So I think that's where the areas of, you know, what are you getting out of it? If it's a spiritual book, you know, and it's feeding your soul, like, I think that is great, you know. Like, I think that if you're going to escape reality, learn something. Learn something in the area of, you know, of how much time I watch TV. I could have learned so many things. And now I'm like a sponge. It's like, I try to learn as much as I can. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, I never thought I would be that person that would just want to know. I want to know everything and how everything works. And I think I've always been like that as a kid, of asking questions like, well, how does that work? Can you explain this to me? Like, kids want to know, like, when they say, like, what is this? They want to know what it is. Not, oh, it's just this. No, they want to know how it works, what it is, every aspect of it. And I think that's where we get shut down as kids, is, you know, like, I think everybody's guilty of it at some point. Even I'm guilty of it, but because I've got lots of nieces and nephews, and, you know, like, when we're doing something and they come up and ask a question, like, those are times where they need that whole detail of what it is and why it works. That's what they're asking. They want to know as much as they can about it, otherwise they wouldn't, you know. Anyway, but I just wanted to come on and say, you know, like, these are the ways that I have found my own happiness, and my way isn't going to be your way, but we all can find it some way, you know, as long as we're looking in the right areas. So anyway, I'm going to let it go because it's like dark out. But anyway, I love you all. Thank you, and have a good night.